BigCountryPreps.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we've got a special guest. We've got Wylie head football coach, Clay Martin.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I've known Coach Martin for a long time. I guess 15 years now that I've been working with him because I covered Wylie when I first got out here, out to Abilene. So a guy I've known a long time, a guy who's done a really nice job as their head coach after doing a tremendous job as their defensive coordinator before that under Coach Hugh Sandifer. And he has Wylie in a really strong position right now. They've won their first district championship since moving up to 5A, are in the area round, have an opportunity to make a nice playoff run if they can take care of Colleyville Heritage this week. So it's gonna be fun talking to them about the season they're having and really just kind of their goals going forward, because this has been a tremendous season for the Wylie Bulldogs.
Yeah, it's been a great season against a murderous schedule. I mean, it's been a lights out, very difficult schedule, and they've done very well going into this week at 8-3. And when they made the jump to 5A, a lot of the people that they couldn't stand Wylie were like, yeah, now they're going to get to what, they're just desserts. They're going to get what they deserve. And we warned people, it was only a matter of time before they started winning again at the 5A level. And guess what? Here we are.
Yeah, and that was one of those things, and I said this at the time too, is that their early struggles in Class 5A, they had a winless season their first year, a 2-win season their second year, and then the coaching change. But a lot of that just had to do with kind of a gap in talent. They had the really small lines and really kind of struggled up front for a couple of years. But as we've seen them build those units back up, they've just gotten better and better. And this year it's kind of culminated. You've got a team that's played a really tough schedule and really fared well against it. I think three of the teams of the 5 teams, 4 of the 5 teams they played in non-district made the playoffs. 3 of those 5 are still playing. And then obviously they had a district that included Ryder and Cooper, which are also still playing. So when half of your schedule is still playing in the second round of the playoffs, you've got a pretty tough schedule at that level. So yeah, he's done a good job, and it'll be interesting to see how kind of the perception does change with that program. Because I do think that they've kind of lost that villain mantle there for a little while. We'll see if they do get it back, if they can start winning at the level they have been.
All right, and with that, it's time for us to take a look at this week's football playoff pairings and last week's scores. We'll start off with last week's by district scores. We'll start with Region 4 1A Division 2 by district scores. Lorain over Panther Creek 56-0. Richland Springs over Zephyr, and Zephyr had a nice run there to close that season. They lose 61-16. Cherokee eliminated Blanket 52-6, and Blackwell over Rising Star 68-40.
And looking ahead to this week, you've got Lorain at 10-1 facing off the Richland Springs at 7-1. They play at 7 p.m. at Erie County, while Blackwell at 7-4 will take on Cherokee, undefeated at 10-0 on Friday at Strawn. So a couple of nice matchups there in the area round.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Region 2 1A D2. Last week's scores: Jayton over Paducah 44-13. Josh Stanlin, one of the nicest guys in the area, getting a win there. That's always good to see. Throckmorton 54 over Goldberg, Bowie Goldberg 54-8. Newcastle over Rule 97-49. I'm glad I didn't have to stat that game. And Benjamin over Motley County 56-6. And Benjamin could go all the way.
Yeah, it kind of feels that way. And looking ahead to the next round, you've got Jayton versus Throckmorton, 7 p.m. Friday at Hamlin, and Benjamin plays Newcastle Friday and Monday. So, yeah, this region does look like Benjamin's to win, but it's going to be fun to see if maybe one of these teams can challenge him.
All right, let's just jump up to Division 1 and 6-man level, 1A, Division 1. Last week we lost May. I did not see that one coming. They fall to Erie County 104-91, and that is not an NBA score.
No, that's just that's one of those classic 6-man football scores right there. But that was a great game. This was a really good May football team. They just got beaten in a great game by Erie County.
Region 3, Division 1, we do have a survivor. Gordon defeated St. Joe 62-16. Gorman fell to Union Hill 48-6.
And that leaves the only area matchup this week in the second round is Gordon versus Blum at 7 p.m. Friday in Hyco. Gordon's another one of those teams. It looks like they've got a nice little run, or in the midst of a nice little run. It's going to be interesting to see how far they can take this. They have not lost yet this season.
All right, Region 2, Division 1, it's the same story. We've got one survivor. It's Westbrook. They eliminated Garden City 72-22. And Ira fell to Rankin 74-42, and that's a very good Rankin team.
Yeah, it is. And Westbrook will play Rankin if they can take down Buena Vista this week. That game's 7 p.m. Friday at Garden City. But this Westbrook team looks like they've got another really strong one. And if we can get a Westbrook Rankin matchup in that third round, it'd be pretty interesting, I think.
Region 1, 1A, Division 1. Again, one survivor from the area. It's Knox City. They eliminated Petersburg last week, 50-28.
And that sets up a big second round matchup with Happy. Knox City at 9-2 will take on Happy at 10-1. That one is 7 p.m. Friday at Motley County. So that's the great thing about the playoff period is by the second round you start to get some really good matchups, and that's doubly true of six man where you don't get as many teams into the playoffs. By the second round you're talking about some really good matchups, and this is exactly one of those. Knox City Happy should be a really fun game.
That's going to be a tough go for Knox City against that Happy team. That's going to be a great ball game.
Mm-hmm.
All right, we're going to move on to Class 2A, and we'll start off in Region 3. We do not have a survivor out there in Region 3. Heiko falls to Sims Bowie in the by-district round, 34-22.
And Heiko finished a tough season. They had a kind of a rebuilding season after last year. So had a lot of young players, but I think it was a big deal for them to make the playoffs. And it was a very competitive showing against Bowie. Only a 12-point loss there. So I think that's something they can build on going forward because they have a lot of these kids back next year.
Yeah, that's a tough district. It was a very tough, top-heavy district with two or three really good ball clubs, including Mart
Yeah.
in the mix, and then three rebuilding teams. And Heiko was kind of like right in the middle. They were like the hinge point of that district, but they did snag a playoff seed with a young team. I call that a successful year
Yeah,
for the Tigers.
for sure.
All right, now we're going to jump over to Region 2, 2A, D2. Last week's scores, we lost Cross Plains. I was on hand for that one. That was out at Big Spring, 60-0 Wink over Cross Plains. Santo down Seymour over at Clyde High School, 28-20, and that was a good ball game. We knew it was going to be a tight ball game, and it was. Albany took care of El Dorado, 49-13. Collinsville eliminated Haskell. Haskell gave them a good go, by the way, in that ball game, falling 21-7. And then McCamey eliminating an injury-plagued Roscoe team, 42-6. Kind of sad for Roscoe with the injury problems that they did have. Still, they got a playoff spot, a good year, all in all.
And that sets up a couple of fun area round matchups. Santo at 10-1 will take on that undefeated Wink team, 7 p.m. Thursday at Colorado City for a game I'll be at. I'm looking forward to that one. And then Albany will take on Munster, 7 p.m. Thursday in Graham. This is a Munster team at 6-5 that is better than its record would suggest. They played a really tough non-district schedule and managed to snag a 3 seed out of what was turned out to be a really tough district there. So I think Albany is a clear favorite in that one, but this Munster team's tougher than that record would suggest.
It's a young Munster team, but talented. It's young but talented. That matchup over there at Colorado City's Wolf Stadium, Santo and Wink's going to be an interesting one. That's going to be a ground and pound Santo team against a high flying Wink team that spreads the field, goes up tempo, throws the football all over the place. Very explosive. It's going to be an interesting matchup to see who can dictate tempo. The team that dictates tempo in that game is going to win it.
I was going to say the exact same thing. The key to that one, if Santo wants to win that game, they need to get that flex bone option game rolling, get their 3 yards per play, extend every drive, and just chew up clock. That's kind of what they did to Roscoe last year and kind of just chewed them up that way. This Wink team is obviously very, very good. That's going to be a challenge, but I think to me, that's the key. Can Santo move the chains, keep the chains rolling, keep the clock rolling, and finish enough drives to put that kind of pressure on Wink? Because if they can, I think it'll be a 4-quarter game. If they can't, it's going to get tough because this Wink team can score in a hurry.
They can score in a hurry, but also the defensive front seven of Wink is impressive. Also, they got some big kids up front. They're not easy to run on. So it's going to be a real challenge for Santo to get that flex bone going. If they can, they've got a shot at winning that game. All right, now we're going to jump up to Division 1 in Class 2A. We'll start in Region 2, where the Bangs Dragons were impressive in a win over Nakona, 61-21. And then Coleman over Alvord, 46-0. So we've got 2 survivors still going.
Yeah, and that sets up I think a winnable matchup for Bangs in the area round. They got a 6-5 Riesel team this week, 7 p.m. Friday in Burleson, while Coleman's got a really tough second round game against Crawford, undefeated Crawford, 7 p.m. Friday in Weatherford. So it'll be interesting. Bangs could be the team between those two to survive the second round, which would be probably not something that a whole lot of people predicted. But Coleman, I think, will have a shot against Crawford as well. That's just going to be a very tough matchup.
All right, now we're going to switch over to Region 1. We're staying in Class 2A, D1. Last week's scores. Cisco over Reagan County, 55-0. Forsan in a tough ball game with Stanford, and that could have gone either way. Forsan eliminating Stanford 21-14. Interesting ball game with some key turnovers, some key flags. It's just the way it panned out. Either team could have won it. Holly over Cristobal 52-8. So we've got 3 survivors in our coverage area still alive in the area round in Region 1.
Yeah, and they've all got tough games this week. You've got Cisco at 9-2 taking on Stratford at 11-0, 6 p.m. Friday at Lubbock Cooper. Forsan at 9-2 will take on New Deal 8-3, 7 p.m. Thursday in Denver City. And Holly, undefeated Holly at 11-0, will take on Panhandle 9-2, 3 p.m. Friday as part of a doubleheader at Lubbock's Lowry Field. So 3 really interesting matchups. It'll be neat to see how these turn out.
Yeah, that's 3 tough matchups for our teams. Those are monstrous ball clubs that are going up against Cisco and Holly, and that New Deal team that Forsan's up against is very good as well. But man, there's just no guarantees right now. From this point forward, it's going to be extremely difficult.
No, and that's kind of what you expect when you get to this point. You got to play tough games to win, so it'll be fun to see how those turn out.
All right, and with that, we're going to jump up to Class 3A Division 2. We're going to start in Region 2, where we've got a survivor. We've got the Comanche Indians who put a whooping on Henrietta, 69-27. And Holiday eliminating Merkel. But I'll tell you what, Merkel with a very young team snagged a playoff spot in a tough district. I think that's a step forward for the Badgers.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a big deal for Coach Cates and the program he's building there. They got into the playoffs. That's definitely something they can build on going forward. With Comanche's win, that sets up a really interesting area round matchup with Bells, 7 p.m. Thursday in Springtown. This is going to be a fun matchup, and one I think that Comanche kind of played a non-district schedule to set themselves up for games like this. So I think this is going to be a really nice measuring stick for that program. If they can get past this Bells team, it's going to be fun to see what they can do in that region.
All right, now we're going to switch over to Region 1, 3A Division 2, where we've got 2 teams that did survive last week. Wall over Tornillo by forfeit. Tornillo was unable to field the full team, so Wall advanced. Cahoma fell to a very good Childress team, 46-20. But I'll tell you what, bravo to Cahoma for a great season. We did not expect that from them. We thought that they would miss the playoffs, have a rebuilding season. They proved everybody wrong, including us. Early over Odessa Compass, easily 62-0. And Brady fell in 2 overtimes to Alpine. That was a great game out there way out west.
Yeah, 57-55 final in that one. A tough way to end the season, but this was kind of a Brady group that had some adversity to fight through this year, but they did make the playoffs and gave themselves an opportunity in that game to advance. So a good season for them. Looking at the area round, we've got Wall at 10-1 taking on Childress at 7-4. That game is at 7 p.m. Friday in Breckenridge, while Early at 7-4 takes on a very good Canadian team, 9-2, 7 p.m. Friday in Vernon. So this will be a good test again for both of our teams out there.
All right, now we're going to move up to Division 1 in Class 3A, where we've got 2 survivors again from our coverage area. We've got Jim Ned, who really played well against Pilot Point. Coming out of District 4, I was concerned about Pilot Point because it's a very tough district. Granted, they're a 4 seed out of that tough district, but I thought they might give Jim Ned a problem there early on, but Jim Ned proved me wrong there. Just absolutely whooped them, 41-zip. And then, of course, Brock over Iowa Park, 48-0. Breckenridge falls to Paradise, 47-7.
Yeah, and that sets up a couple of again tough area round matchups. Jim Ned playing Bushland 10-1 at 7 p.m. Friday at Lubbock's Lowry Field, while Brock will take on 8-3 Muleshoe at 7 p.m. Thursday in Sweetwater at a game that we will be at as well. So I think that region kind of went a little bit how we thought it would as far as the District 4 versus District 3 matchups, but Jim Ned survived while District 4 took the rest of those. It's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this bracket plays out. We could get a Jim Ned Brock 3rd round matchup if those things fall right.
All right, now we're going to move up to Class 4A, Division 2. We had one ball club that was still playing last week in Region 1. That was the Snyder Tigers. They fell 31-21 to Ferris at a game that in a game that you were on hand for.
Yeah, that was a game I was at in Cisco. Very cold night. And I gotta hand it to Snyder. This was a very shorthanded Snyder team, a team that just had a tremendous amount of injuries this year, a lot of adversity they had to fight through, and they gave Ferris all they wanted. They led them in the 4th quarter, ended up being outscored 14-0 in the 4th quarter. They had a kind of a ill-timed interception off a tipped pass. It was actually a good throw. They kind of allowed Ferris to get that 2-score lead for the first time all game and kind of put that one away. But this Snyder team was so scrappy. Their record, there won't be a whole lot of people impressed by their record this year, but I think that Coach Westwood kind of laid it out. He said that with everything they faced this year, they very easily could have had just a washout season, a 1-9, an 0-10 season, and this team found a way to win 4 games, tie for second in their district, make it to the playoffs, and give a really a quality athletic Ferris team all they wanted for four quarters. So this Snyder team, I think, has a lot to be proud of and a lot to build on. Even though it wasn't necessarily a traditional success, this team really showed a lot of toughness throughout the year, a lot of grit.
All right, now we're going to jump up to Division 1 in Class 4A, where we have a survivor in Region 2. Stephenville again winning over Fort Worth Dunbar 56-20. The Yellow Jackets just as explosive, if not more explosive than they were last year.
Yep, and that sets up a crazy area round matchup with undefeated Anna, 7 p.m. Friday, Midlothian ISD Stadium. This will be a tough one for Stephenville. Obviously, that region is just so stacked. I mean, there's so many good teams in that region, just as there were last year when Stephenville made that historic run to the state championship. But like I said before, when you get to this point, you're going to have to beat good teams to advance, and that is very much the case this week for Stephenville.
All right, now we're going to jump over to Region 1 4A D1, where again we have 2 survivors in Region 1. We've got Big Spring, who won a miraculous ball game with El Paso Riverside, and just a last-minute touchdown pass in that ball game to win it 38-35, and then Brownwood over El Paso Irvin 63-0. So they both advance.
Yeah, and you mentioned that Big Spring result. If you have not seen the highlight of that final touchdown, the go-ahead touchdown play, go find it on Twitter. A miraculous play where Gavin Padron escaped a couple of sack attempts on a 4th and 10 play, heaves it up to Kavian Ford, their running back, for a long touchdown in the end zone. Just a remarkable play that advances them to the area round where they will face Wichita Falls High in what should be a very competitive game this Friday at 8 p.m. at Clyde, while Brownwood at 9-2 will take on a 10-1 Canyon team at 7 p.m. Friday at Midland's Astound Broadband Stadium. So I think those both look like really fun matchups as well. We're getting this area around. Once you get here, you start to get a lot of really intriguing matchups. I think that's definitely the case in this region. I think that Big Spring Wichita Falls High is going to be a really good game, and Brownwood Canyon should be a great one as well.
Sometimes I think area round matchups are a little too intriguing. Like you'd like to see teams of this caliber separated just by at least another round. But how are you going to seed? How are you going to seed Texas? It's just not possible.
And that is the thing too. Yeah, we mentioned the brackets for Bangs and Coleman, which come out of the same district. Coleman beats Bangs in the regular season and gets a tougher second round matchups. That's just one of those things where the seeding just sometimes works out that way. But yeah, it's kind of the way the cookie crumbles. But I think the best way to approach it is just to accept that once you get to the playoffs, you have the road you have, and you got to beat good teams if you want to get as far as you're hoping to. But yeah, it is tough to see teams that have 3rd and 4th round ceilings getting knocked out in the second round only because they're playing another team with a 3rd or 4th round ceiling.
All right, with that, let's jump up to Class 5A Division 2, where we again have 2 survivors. We've got Wylie, we've got Cooper. Wylie eliminated El Paso High 54-14 last week. Cooper over El Paso Andress 49-20, both of them advance.
Yeah, both local teams took care of their El Paso opponents. I was on hand for the Wylie game, and they just really kind of dominated El Paso High from the start. Really strong performance. And then Cooper had a really nice performance as well. They dealt with a little bit of early adversity after giving up a big play and got out to a big lead and held on to that one. That sets up a couple of good area round matchups. Wylie at 8-3 will take on 8-3 Colleyville Heritage, 7 p.m. Friday at Grapevine's Panther Mustang Stadium. That's actually at Colleyville Heritage's home stadium, so that's a true road game for Wylie. While Cooper at 6-5 will take on Grapevine 10-1, 7 p.m. Friday in Crowley at Fort Worth's Crowley ISD Stadium. So a couple of tough matchups for both of our teams, but should be fun ones. These two have kind of earned those opportunities, and I think that both have the talent to compete in those games. So it should be fun.
All right, and our final ball club from the area that is still alive is in Class 5A D1. The Abilene Eagles defeated El Paso del Valle last week, 42-14. The Eagles advance.
Yeah, and I've got an egg
Del,
on
I'm
my
from
face.
Arizona. I say Del Valle.
That's correct.
Everybody here in Texas says Del Val.
Only in Austin they call it Del Valley because they're a bunch of gringos. Yeah. But El Paso del Valle And this is a really, really impressive win for Abilene High, because Del Valle is one of those programs out of El Paso that has had some success. This is a team that is actually put together some playoff success over the years, and Abilene High just took it to them. They led that game 42-0 before allowing a couple late touchdowns. So really strong performance by Abilene High. And like I said, I've got a egg on my face and a mea culpa, because I picked Del Valle in that game.
So did I.
Largely because Abilene High had not, prior to this game, won a game away from their home stadium. They played really well at home and really struggled on the road, but they had a bye week in between right before the playoffs, and really put some things together and went on the road. That game was at Del Valle and just dominated from start to finish. So it really, hats off to them. That's a really good win. And
I
that's
think most of the people in the media picked Del Valle to win that game.
that's a great win for Abilene High, and the way they won it, just incredibly impressive. But that sets up a matchup with Red Oak, who had a really fun come from behind game over Denton Ryan in the by district to advance. Red Oak at 9-2 will take on Abilene High at 5-6, 7 p.m. Friday at Mansfield's Newsom Stadium. But Abilene High is a dangerous team this time of year. It doesn't matter what their record is. This is a dangerous team this time of year. They showed it a couple of years ago when they made that run to the third round of the playoffs and gave Geyer all they wanted without a quarterback in the fourth round, or third round rather. And this team's similar. They're kind of putting things together at the right time. Very, very good defensively, and offensively they're starting to figure some things out. This is an Abilene High team that, now that they've kind of figured out the road woes, gotten that monkey off their back. Watch out. This is a dangerous football team.
All right, before we bring on Wylie head football coach Clay Martin, it's time for us to thank some of our sponsors, beginning with For the Love of the Game Broadcasting and our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of KLAX 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, KATX 97.7 FM out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game Broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle new or used, give him a shout at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bayer Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. And with that, Dan, it is just about time to bring on the man, Clay Martin of Wylie, the Wylie Bulldogs, who had garnered a lot of hatred over the years because of their success, and a lot of people were glad to see him move to 5A and said, nah, it's their turn, blah blah blah. And guess what, they're winning now.
Yeah, and this has been a really fun team to watch. This is a team extremely explosive offensively, has improved a ton defensively. They were really young on that side of the ball to start the season, and have really matured over the course of the season against a very tough schedule. It's going to be fun to talk to Coach Clay Martin about this team, about this season, and it looks like he's just about ready to join us. Let's go ahead and get him on.
All right, joining us now, Wylie head football coach Clay Martin. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you.
All right, Coach, you're in the midst of the best season that you guys have had since 2016. Tell us about the keys to the success that you're enjoying.
Yeah, I think the key has been the kids' preparation and the ability they've had to stay on task and continue to work each and every week. I think we're a better team now than we were several weeks ago. And I think just building throughout the year has been the biggest key.
And Coach, you've obviously been part of this program for a long time. You were a big part of the success that Coach Sandifer had as his defensive coordinator. This year, y'all won y'all's first district championship and playoff game since moving up to 5A. Just how important was it to you as the head coach now to kind of reestablish that championship standard?
Yeah, obviously we experienced a lot of success. Coach Sandifer, an icon in Texas high school football and a great friend of mine, and a person that we had a lot of success under him, and to be able to kind of get the program, back on track and after a couple of tough years, and it's pretty special to the entire community.
But your team seems to be thriving in adverse situations. How much did that tough non-district schedule help you out to get ready for that?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question. We've always played a really tough non-district schedule, and this year was no different. Maybe even one of the toughest we've ever had. And when you play teams that are really good, they expose faults that you may have, and you learn how to deal with that adversity and figure out a way to be successful.
And Coach, this is probably one of the most explosive offenses, certainly that I remember in my time here that Wylie's had. just a lot of big play capability. Y'all have incorporated some tempo, maybe some more wide open concepts than maybe what we've seen from Wylie in the past. Just is this kind of the offense that you kind of always envisioned running when you took over the head coaching job, or is this just kind of what fits the talent you've got this year?
I think a little bit of both. Obviously, things are kind of after a few years kind of coming to fruition, and I think our offensive staff's done a great job of putting together a plan from the very beginning. And you've got to give all the credit to the kids of believing in what we're doing, and I think that's the biggest key. And I think this is where we always envisioned that we could be, and I'm just proud of the fact that we're able to put up a lot of points.
Coach, talk a little bit about KJ Long. How proud are you of this kid? It's his first and only year as a starter, and what a year he's having.
Yeah, just an exceptional young man and a great competitor. KJ is a guy that makes plays that are off script. He does a great job of understanding the offense and what we're trying to get done. But just a remarkable young man, and just a great competitor. I think is probably the best description of KJ.
And obviously that passing game has been huge for you with KJ and those receivers, but y'all have managed to stay very, very balanced, have a really strong running game as well. And obviously a lot of that goes to that offensive line. You got a really big, strong offensive line unit. I think a very confident unit, some guys that have played together for a couple of years now. Just how valuable has that group been to what y'all have done offensively?
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to start, up front. And those guys, we have some experience there, and a group of young men that is really smart, a group that is makes a lot of checks and controls a lot of the things that we're doing. All the other stuff is always going to go through the offensive line and how well they play.
Coach, you may have already answered this question. Defensively, you've improved throughout the season. Is it a product of being able to make adjustments off what you're seeing off the film and that tough, the tough non-district schedule, et cetera, that you've been through? What have been the keys for your defensive improvement?
Yeah, I think just really proud of the way in which we stayed the course. We played teams that exposed us in a lot of areas defensively, and we're able to continue to work. We had a lot of inexperience on that side of the ball, and I think it just gotten better each and every week. And by the time we got to district play, we're really playing a lot better defensively, and really came on throughout district, and probably playing as well as we've played all year. Probably the best we've played all year.
And with last week's win over El Paso High, that earns you an area round matchup at Colleyville Heritage. Obviously, this is one of those teams that has dropped down from a higher classification. They got a lot of talent. Just what are your thoughts on this matchup, and what are you hoping to see this week from your team?
Yeah, Colleyville Heritage is a very well-coached team. A team that has a lot of weapons. A team that plays very, very hard, and will be a great matchup for us. I think they've got a really good football team, and we believe we do too. And so I think it'll be a great game.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about the region? The winner of your ball game with Heritage is going to have a minefield to navigate. It's a tough go.
Yeah, the region is a little different than it's been in the past several years, and I believe a little tougher, obviously. And we moving forward throughout this deal, obviously, are going to, like you said, experience a lot of minefields, and you just got to keep playing. At this point, you don't worry about any of that. You're just concerned about playing so you get to play another week.
And last one, but like I said before, you've been at Wylie a long time, filled several roles there, have been a big part of what I said with Coach Sandifer's program before, now the head coach of the football program, led the baseball team to a couple of state championships. Just what does this Wylie program and community mean to you, and how much fun has it been to kind of share the success y'all are having this year with that community that you've been a part of for a long time now?
Yeah, I think it's hard to understand that unless you've been a part of it as long as I have, and as long as a lot of us have. And the community is very special, and the support and administration, and I just can't say enough about that whole aspect of this job. I've been here 30 years, and a place that once I got here never wanted to leave, and just a great community support, and to be able to have some success, and to bring success not only to our football team and our athletic program, but the success that the community feels. And and the support that they give us is I think unparalleled.
Coach, if you keep winning like this, the area is going to start hating you again. You know that.
Well, I guess that just comes with the territory, but hopefully we can continue to keep this thing rolling.
Well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. Best of luck to you the rest of the way.
Hey, thank you very much. Appreciate you having me.
And that was Wylie head football coach Clay Martin. And for me personally, I'm an outsider. I'm from Arizona, so it doesn't really matter who wins and who loses. I just enjoy big country athletics, big country football. But it just didn't seem right with Wylie struggling for a couple of years there. Now that they're back in the mix, I think it's more fun. It's more
Yeah.
fun to see them, having some success again.
I agree completely. And honestly, I like to see all of our programs do well, local and area. So I think you're right. I think it's more fun when our programs are doing well. And in the case of Wylie, it's fun because they've managed to maintain those rivalries in non-district with schools like Stephenville, with schools like Brownwood, and they've become really good competitive games every year that make both of those teams better. So I think it's always good that these teams do have that success. And it's good to see, for me personally, to see Coach Martin have this type of season as well. He experienced his first playoff win as a head coach last week against El Paso High. Got his first district championship as a head coach, and as a guy that's been such a big part of that program for such a long time. It's cool to see him start to have some of those things as a head coach now and get that program kind of rolling, which I think he's getting it to that point. So that's been fun for me to see as well.
All right. And with that, it's about time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month, $36 for a full year of Big Country athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. You can purchase a photo download for just $7, and we also have some keepsakes and prints available, so make sure you check those out. As you scroll through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these games we're at. It's something we enjoy doing and something we are very proud of here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All Big Country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.